Kevin, my man, what's up?
Hey, good timing, guys. What's happening?
What's up, Kevin? Thank God you're here.
Yeah, it's the worst week of weather I've ever seen as long as I've been doing this, and it's been like a decade.
So, can you make it go away or something? Because we've got leagues to win.
Yeah,
Can you just give it to Canada?
yeah.
Do you have that kind of power?
Sadly, it's coming from Canada, and it's rough timing, right? With fantasy football playoffs going on, and it really couldn't be much worse. But we'll break it down. I'll let you know where the trouble is.
Thanks, Canada.
And-
So when you lose in your fantasy leagues this week, you can blame Canada.
Blame Canada. That's right. So first of all, Kevin, I read your stuff, anytime there's weather, rotogrinders.com. Check it out. Follow him at Kevin Roth WX. I do promote you actually a lot on the show without you even knowing because I rely on you very much, but great Twitter follow. Okay. So what are we looking at? What are the worst games? What are we dealing with here?
I do get random waves of followers, and I always wonder where that's coming from. So I guess it was you. So thank you. Yeah, I always wondered how that happened. All right, so I've got these broken down into 3 categories, and the first one is cold but good enough. Most of these games, temperatures are in the teens or 20s, but winds are light enough where I don't expect it's going to have a major impact, so you just stick with it, especially considering the other games are mostly much worse. That includes Houston at Tennessee, Seattle at Kansas City, Cincy at New England, Atlanta at Baltimore, and Raiders at Pittsburgh. None of those games have good weather, but I don't think you should fade anyone in any of those games. Does that work?
Yes.
Yes, Heath will tell you to fade Derek Carr because he's terrible whenever it's lower than 40 degrees, and it will be a lot lower than that. But as a general rule, I understand. So that's Houston, Tennessee, Seattle, Kansas City, Cincinnati, New England, Atlanta, Baltimore, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh. Cold but good enough.
I think that's the best way I can sum it up. And I'm not saying that there won't be some minor impacts, but those games are all good enough where I don't think you need to get crazy or do anything too creative.
Okay, what's worse?
Okay, now's the second category out of 3, and this is expect impacts category. I've got Jacksonville at the Jets game, Thursday Night Football. It's sloppy. I mean, it's cold, it's wet. Temperatures in the 40s. It looks like potentially heavy rain in this game, and that's going to impact passing. It's tough to have a crisp passing game when it's pouring rain. It's also going to increase turnovers. So I've got that game as a expect impacts. I also have Buffalo at Chicago in that same category here. Temperature of around 10 degrees. All right, no biggie, but add in a 10 to 20 mile per hour wind, more like 20 mile per hour sustained wind rather. It's going to put the feels like temperature at 10 below. And anytime you get a 20 mile per hour sustained wind, it's tough to throw the ball deep. It's tough to kick long field goals. That game's going to be pretty tough.
Dave, it's interesting because that game has 2 quarterbacks who can obviously get it done with their legs, Buffalo and Chicago. So, what do you think about Allen and Fields real quick?
I mean, that kind of saves them for fantasy purposes, especially in the case of Justin Fields, who really until last week, he never really counted on fully for what he could do as a passer, but he came through in that regard last week, and that was great, and he still ran for a ton of yards. Hey, Kevin, is there a win situation in New York with the Jaguars and the Jets?
It's not that strong, about a 10 to 15 mile per hour wind. So it's there, but it's not enough where you need to really worry about it. I'm more concerned about the rain, and in general, I don't really love to fade guys just because of rain. You can do it, but it's just don't expect 100% output from whoever you plug in that spot.
Isn't it more of a visibility issue? And that just comes down to how hard it's raining?
Yeah, it's visibility. And the harder it rains, the slicker that ball gets. And you get to a point where it's just harder to throw and catch it when it gets too wet. And it doesn't impact every play, but you just see some of these guys dropping passes that they would have caught if it wasn't pouring rain.
So are those the only 2 games in the expect impacts category, Jacksonville with the Jets and Buffalo, Chicago?
That's it. And I love what you guys said about in that Chicago game. Both quarterbacks can do it with their legs. It gives them that floor at least. And for Fields, he still has the ceiling with his legs as well, which is the only upside there. But there is one more category.
Yeah, but I thought Buffalo Chicago was going to be one of the worst. I'm surprised it's not in this last category here. But what? Okay, so I wanted to ask you one more follow up. As we sit here on Wednesday morning, how confident can we actually be in pouring rain, basically, for Thursday night?
Generally not very confident. Usually I don't feel good about a rain forecast until the day of, and you can look at high resolution models. In this case, the rain is so widespread across the area that I do feel fairly confident in that rain forecast. Definitely check back with me on Twitter at KevinRothWX, because I will post updates. It's literally all I do. So I will post updates, but right now I'm fairly confident.
Okay, well, I'll get some buckets out from my house. So looking forward to leaks. All right, what's our worst category?
Okay, there's only one game in this, which is why you probably thought maybe that other one would have ended up in this bucket. But this is no fly zone. This is it ain't happening. You ain't throwing it. You're not kicking it. It's New Orleans at Cleveland, and it is just horrid out there. I mean, we're talking sustained winds 20 to 30 miles per hour. Wind gusts are going to be up over 40 miles per hour. This is one of the. It's also cold, but I'm more concerned about the wind, of course. This is one of those games where usually you think, okay, well, maybe 3 handoffs and a punt wouldn't be so bad, except it's so windy that the punt might boomerang back over the punter's head. Like it is.
Oh my gosh.
It is going to be really ugly, really tough to throw the ball. I do not like wide receivers or quarterbacks in this game. I don't even like running backs that much, not because they're not going to get their touches, but because everybody knows that's what you got to do. So the box is going to get jammed up. Short routes are going to get jammed up. It's just about as ugly as it gets. I've seen guys go off in similar situations, get a couple short touchdowns, but you're asking for a lot to overcome these elements.
It's like the game last year between the Bills and the Patriots. I know you remember that one, Kevin.
I do remember that one. I think it could be that bad. I don't want to quite put it in that category yet, but yeah, I think it has the potential to be that windy where it's just chaos. Special teams chaos, offensive chaos, pure chaos everywhere.
Okay.
The over-under is 31.5, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And
you almost never
like
see them that low.
Yeah,
I bet.
Schneier said it might have been the lowest ever opening line, opening over. I'm not sure if that's true, but it's got to be up there or down there. All right, Dave, I'm sorry, you had a question?
Kevin, weather in Carolina and Foxborough looks okay?
Yeah, that's a couple spots where, I'd consider it not perfect. Carolina, I think, looks good. Foxborough, cold, not perfect, good enough.
Okay, that's a relief. At least the Carolina thing, because could maybe you have to go with Jared Goff or something like that, and people are going to be desperate this week. This is going to be one of the hardest weeks that we've ever had to deal with in terms of advice. So, but thank you. This is very helpful. So, cold but good enough. Houston, Tennessee, Seattle, Kansas City, Cincinnati, New England, Atlanta, Baltimore, Raiders, Steelers. Expect impacts. Jacksonville with the Jets on Thursday, Buffalo, Chicago, and the no-fly zone is New Orleans, Cleveland. And last thing, what did you think of what played out Saturday last week with the Buffalo game, where everyone was expecting a white Christmas basically, and it didn't come till late in the fourth quarter?
I was standing up, I was screaming into my megaphone, "Play your dudes. This is not Snowmageddon. It's going to be fine until late." And I wanted it frustrates me when non-weather people get the weather narrative out there, because it's wrong 9 out of 10 times. So I was frustrated would be the answer.
I was doing my best Kevin Roth impersonation that day. I was posting updates from the morning all the way till kickoff. We even had a fan of FFT, Brandon. I don't know his last name, but he was sending me pictures from his tailgates. And I agree. Like by the time an hour before kickoff, everything looked good. I started my guys. I told everybody else to do the same.
That's what I like to hear. And you mentioned, look, things change leading up to these games. So make sure follow me on Twitter at KevinRothWX. Check out the forecast on Roto Grinders. I keep it updated literally every single day, all day long.
Thank you, Kevin.
You are a saint, Kevin.
Yeah, it's so good to hear from you. I was truly going to reach out to you, and then I went on Twitter and I saw the DM. I was like, yes, all right, we're on. Thank you very much.
I figured it was time for the reunion. It's good to see you guys, and anytime there's weather going forward, I'm always here for you.
You got it, Kevin. You know what? This was good news. So I'm glad you came. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Have a good one.
Okay, see ya.
It's good news because I thought that there were going to be as many as 9 games significantly hampered by weather. And he really kind of made it out to be only 3 games. Yeah. And one of the 3 games is the Thursday game. And he downplayed the wind, Adam.
Yeah.
He said it was only going to be 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. I can handle that. And if the rain isn't as bad as the forecast says, and I mean, he said that it's going to be bad, there's a chance that we can start these guys and feel pretty good about it.
Well, if the rain is that bad, I want to go back. There was a week. Can you look up the week where the Eagles played the Jaguars? Was that week 3 or 4?
I believe it was 4 or 5. I can tell you in a second.
Oh, it was 4. I got it. So that was a really bad weather week, a rain week. And you had Jalen Hurts score 15 points. You had Lamar Jackson score 14 points. There was one other game with a really good quarterback who was terrible.
Trevor Lawrence had 5 turnovers, I believe.
Yeah, right. Was there? I'm pretty sure there were 3 really bad weather games that kind of slowed down.
Right.
Oh,
it was interesting.
It was Josh Allen. He scored 25 points, but he threw for 213 yards and 1 touchdown. It was Baltimore, Buffalo. So when you look at Allen, Hurts, and Jackson, Allen did give you the 70 yards and a touchdown rushing. But I remember that week specifically because those 3 quarterbacks were absolutely on fire. Jackson was coming off 2 straight, 46-point games, and all 3 of them really struggled throwing the ball. And I remember saying, well, the only thing that can stop them is rain. So if it is torrential downpour, I think that is a big deal. And apparently it's going to be pretty bad on Thursday.
And if you just go back and you look at that Jaguars-Eagles game, you get an idea of what Trevor Lawrence's numbers and what his receivers' numbers can look like in that game. Bad weather. He did throw 2 touchdowns. They both went to Jamal Agnew.
Oh, yeah.
They were of 4 and 8 yards. And so without going back and looking at the replay, they could have been pop passes for all I know, where the ball travels like a foot.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go back and see, but obviously they were short distance touchdowns from Trevor Lawrence to Agnew, who's more of like a runner, an option player, sweep type of guy. Christian Kirk had 9 targets, 2 for 60. Zay Jones, I don't think even played in the game.
No, I don't think he did. But it doesn't really because they obviously weren't clicking like they are now. The Jaguars offense much different now than it was in week 4. But I just remember specifically Hurts, Allen, Jackson really struggling in bad rain in week 4.